Down here, Panther Point, Panther Lake. We hadn't been down here in a little bit, so we tried to go back there this past week. Make a little trip down there since the majority of our fish that we're finding trout-wise are on shell. So if you've been fishing shell bars and shell reefs early in the mornings, you've probably had some pretty decent success, if not even more so. That's like I say, that's primarily the location that we're finding lots of our trout is over that type of structure. Early mornings, we're getting into that 9:30-ish hour, and that trout bite really starts to taper off for us. So if that's what you're wanting to target right now, since we're into August, I've already had, we're not but 4 or 5 days in, so it's already pretty smoking out there as it gets to mid-morning. We're into the mid-90s, water temps touching 90, starting out in the upper 80s. So it's hot. Conditions are hot. Temperatures are hot. Water, everything is really warm. Fish just don't really like that. They're not comfortable with that. So you really have to get on those fish early in the mornings to get your best opportunities to catch those fish. If you're going to try to target them later in the morning, you're not going to have a whole lot of success, and that's what's just been consistently shown to us this past week. Like I say, past 9:30, 10 o'clock, it's just not happening. So you really have to focus on your redfish, unless that's really all that you want to fish for. Then you're fishing a whole different way. But we're like to try to say we're primarily focusing on the trout early. Then we'll transition into redfish or maybe even possibly flounder or black drum later in the day like that. But usually by 1 o'clock, our bite all over has been pretty well squelched, and it's a done deal. So like I say, and this is going to be the continual pattern unless there's something weather-wise that takes place in the next 10 to 15 days. It's going to dictate that. But right now, this is our typical August pattern where temperatures are going to be in the mid-90s. Water temps are going to be in the upper 80s, low 90s. So that's what you're going to have to contend with, and that's what you have to prepare for. Primarily, we were throwing out here off in the deeper edges. We're fishing up early. We're fishing shorelines, knee-deep, thigh-deep water early, and then as that sun starts to pop and starts to rise, we're moving out to waist-deep, throwing out to a little bit deeper water than that, over structure, hard-packed sand, deeper grass beds, shell. That's what we're looking for. That's the type of structure we're fishing on. That's where we're consistently finding our fish, trout-wise. But we were throwing smaller baits, even though we're in this new moon phase. We're going to be on the back side of it later this week. You'll be back in the transition days toward the end of the week, early next week. But right now, we're in the new moon phase. Take advantage of that right now while you can. Early mornings, again, are very good. It's very consistent, finding those fish where we can. Again, all over shell, hard-packed sand, deeper grass beds. That's the target. That's what we're fishing. That's what you should be looking for as well if trout is your species that you want to catch. Again, we were throwing the smaller profile baits. We were throwing we were throwing burner shad in multiple different flavors. White ice, bone diamond, and firecracker were the three that were the most productive in that size and color. And as far as the original goes, watermelon red, white ice, bone diamond, again, those all three, Big Papa, Twisted Tea, have all been pretty good for us as well. Consistently catching fish with those. Through some of the bigger baits, the down south in the supermodel size and variety of different colors, big smooth as well. Watermelon red primarily in the white ice in the big smooth. And then, of course, the knock and tail lures, greenbacks were really good for us, and so was the heavy metal. Those two flavors did well. And we even sprinkled in a few of the Marker 54 jerk shrimp and caught fish with those. So that was a nice variety of baits for us, different size and profiles that we were continuing to catch fish with. Now, when we were once we got done with our trout bite, and we started trying to slide in to find and locate redfish, lots of areas potentially that we're holding some fish, just not a lot of opportunity. Still finding them over grass, potholes, shallower flats, over these edges like that. If you got the areas like that, a lot of these areas up here in the Panther area has that. You get down here to Cedar, but our tides have been kind of funky for us in the last few days, so it's kind of been all over the place. So some of that kind of gets eliminated, so we're looking off deeper edges or some guts, some back lake areas. So, we've gotten to some of the back lake areas, and that water temp's, 91, 92 degrees, but by the time we're getting into 1 o'clock hour. So man, water's really warm. So it's made it very difficult to locate late in the day. So we're really trying to target early. Really not a whole lot happening past noon, man. If you want to sit out there and grind on that, and you can, if that's the time frame that you have, that's what you have, and you have to make the most of it. But these are the types of areas that we're locating those fish. You know, if you can get out of that middle day time frame right now with that big old sunshine that's moving in there and a high pressure pushing in on top of that, and it's just kind of really dictating the bite for you and the water temps for you. If you can kind of wait till later in the afternoon to get on that, then you'll do yourself a little bit more of a favor than you will be in that midday bite, because it's just really difficult right now. Again, 16th ounce jig heads, we're really wanting to control our depth and make it drop really slow through those deeper water columns, give those fish an opportunity to react to that. Because say they're kind of sluggish, really, almost to the point like it's a wintertime bite where there's just not super aggressive at all, especially in the midday time frame. That's primarily what I'm talking about, is that sluggishness that they have. They're just not really wanting to be super active. You really have to work, man. If you know that you got some fish that are holding in a particular area over that deeper grass or deeper shell, stay on it, grind on it. Just keep chunking at them. Maybe change your profiles up, change your colors up just a little bit based on your water clarity, just to see if you can get those fish to eat. We've had a moderate amount of success doing that, but you really, man, your patience level has to go way up, and you have to just really know that you're just confident in the fact that you can get them to eat, but you're going to have to stay with them. You just have to stay there on them and just kind of wait them out. Those opportunities will come. There won't be a lot of them, but they will come. Again, the majors and minors have been the key for us. We're always focusing on the majors and minors and always incorporating that into our fishing day. So that's one of the things that you really have to make sure, especially during these time frames. It's really warm like it is. Those become a key thing that goes in your favor. You know, if our tides are pushing in and pushing out, like I say, we've had really low tides the last few days. So something else you have to consider for as well. You have to incorporate that into your fishing day. But again, keep an eye on weather patterns. Make sure that you got bait in the area. Make sure you're working the right structure. And just be patient right now, guys and gals. Your opportunities will come. They may not be as fast and furious as what you like, but when that does happen, enjoy it and be careful out on the water. Over here in the Mott, you know, you got shell around this area here, all that structure that's out there on the point. Back in these areas here, of course, you got Long Reef, you got Long Reef Bend, you got these areas back here. With our lower tides, we've stayed out on the bar on the outer edge, closer to that deeper water, and that's where we've located our fish. You know, again, early morning. If trout are going to be your thing that you really want to target, you're going to have to be on the water by 6. Just going to be running in the dark. As much as I don't like to do that, if that's the target species that you want, that's what you got to get to right now. You just got to make an exception and get out there and get after them. And once you do that, of course, like I say, we're locating plenty of fish in lots of these different areas. Like I say, up here on the Mott, inside that, out here on Long Reef, on these areas out here, all these little mid-bay reefs. It's like I say, we've had lower tides, so some of these reefs have been more accessible for us. Some of them are pretty deep, and they're kind of hard to get to or hard to wade them. You can drift them depending on where you're at. But all these kind of areas like that, they've been pretty good for us. So we've worked our time with those. Down here, you know, we continue to work the shoreline, deeper grass beds. That's the whole thing out here in front of St. Joe and back toward the Spalding Bite area. Haven't been in the bite in a little bit, but we've been focusing more on the shell and shell bars and shell reefs. That's where our trout are primarily hanging off, especially off the deeper edge. That kind of was really, really obvious to us here the last 3 or 4 days. We'd get on the tapered edge that was, you know, gradual from shallow to deep, and then we'd get on the edge where you just kind of drop off the reef, where it just go from knee deep or even ankle deep to belly deep really quick. And that side of the reef, depending on which reef you're on, that's where we've located fish consistently. Found them on the other side as well, but found them better on the deeper edges. And that's what our pattern has dictated to us, and that's what's holding. That's where it's at. That's what's going on with it. You can slide out here, like say you're going down St. Joe Island, like you're headed toward Allen's Bite, the Mud Island area. You can get out there on the deeper grass beds and start working those. when you're doing those out there, this is where you may, and I've said this in the past, you may want to put that 1/8 ounce jig head on there just to help with the descent. If you're throwing it out there to 4 to 5 foot of water, if you don't have the patience to wait for that 1/16 ounce to get down there to it. But if you do, we have found better fish hanging down right on top of those grass beds off in that deeper water, that 4 to 5 foot range. Are they consistently eating? No, but they're there. And you just have to take your time. That's what I was explaining in the last video. You just got to be patient right now, man. The water temps being what they are, these fish are just not super really hungry, wanting to feed and eat. There's been a couple of days where we did find some that were ready, and they were just choking the baits that we were throwing at them. So again, the main baits, just like I had mentioned before, we were throwing lots of down south in the burner shad, the original size, the supermodel, and the big smooth. All of those flavors or sizes. And the different flavors from the Twisted Tea, Big Papa, White Ice, and Bone Diamond. Those 4 specifically in any of those sizes have done consistently well for us. And then you have your other flavors that are kind of off of that. But, Watermelon Red was another one that's been pretty good for us as well in that water clarity. Even worked a few soft dines in the XLs. So the Little Johns are another one that has done pretty well for us in the more translucent colors. And then the Little Johns XL have done pretty well for us in and around this new moon. So fish have been pretty active. But again, once you get past that 9, 10 o'clock hour, man, that trout bite just really shuts down. It becomes difficult to find fish that consistently want to eat. You can still scratch one out here or there, but just not on a consistent basis. So we try to taper off and locate some redfish that are cruising either close shorelines or maybe just off the back lake edges or some of the deeper guts or holes that are in some of these back lakes. That's been our pattern. That's kind of the path on which we have taken. But again, most of our bites and time frames have come in and around those majors and minors, especially early morning. If you're fortunate enough, like I say, you're getting a moonrise minor right now that's taking place, so it's been really good. Especially in that sun's popping up at the same time. So it's been, the morning bites have been really good. Again, scratch them out later in the day, but really if that's your time frame that you can fish early and get off the water and be done with them. Back here in Turtle Pen, so this particular video here is going to be more of an update, so much so that all the rains and stuff that we had, a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, whatever it was, all that runoff is starting to show up back down in here in Turtle Pen area. This whole area back here is all tea stained, very, very brackish water, more to the freshwater side than it is to the saltwater side. So when you get past a certain point, you'll see a line in the water where the seawater and the freshwater are converging, and it's just a line. It's like a border wall, whatever you want to call it. It's interesting to watch and look at and see how it does. But once you cross that, that water is just brown as it can be. It's just tea stained as it gets. We were wading back in this back area here, and that whole area there, you can pretty much take the water and put it in your hand and taste it, and just tastes just like regular fresh water. Now, what happens with that is the salinity level is lower in that water column. So your target area, if you're going to fish that, which you can, it's not a problem. It's maybe a little bit more of a grind and tough fishing, trying to catch fish and that kind of stuff, but you can catch them. So your primary area that you really want to target is going to be just above that grass line, depending on the depth of your water, because that top 2/3 of that water column is going to be primarily fresh water or really, really brackish water. Now, what that also does too is allow those redfish, because redfish are very adaptive. So we've, saw redfish, saw schools of redfish, caught a few redfish, all back in that type of water in this type of area. So that brackish water comes almost up here, probably to about the middle of where Holiday Beach area is, and it just kind of runs a line all the way across, all the way back up into here in this area here. So everything back north of that area is all pretty much brackish water, tea stain. So it'll take a little bit of time for that to flip back over and get to where it be more natural like it is. But we've located fish back in those areas, but I'm just telling you, if you're going to fish back in there, that's what you need to expect. So that said, we come back around here and we get on the point of Newcomb, and then we started working all this out here on hard-packed sand. You got guts out there. You got deeper edges. Located plenty of fish, plenty of opportunities. But again, Once you got past that 9:30, 10 o'clock hour, that bite frame really shut down. Those fish are just not really wanting to eat a whole lot. Notice that the water temp, once we got off the water, that on that one of those particular days was about 11:45, and it was already touching 91. So just something to keep in mind. So, when you start getting that type of temperature in the water in these types of areas, you're going to really want to focus on that deeper edge. That's why their deeper grass beds are very important, especially around shale, hard-packed sand. That's why it's so important, man. This time of year, that's the kind of stuff that you got to target, or you got to be there very early in the morning. So that's your game plan. That's what you're going to have to do. You can, like I say, you can try to sit there and grind on the redfish later in the day if you so choose. We're primarily targeting our trout, catch those suckers and get off the water before it gets to about that 11 o'clock hour and be done with it. And again, it's what I mentioned earlier. It's going to be that pattern for the next 10 to 15 days. So that's just something to get ready for, unless we have some type of weather maker that pops up in here for us and starts moving into our Gulf into change the weather pattern for us. But for the foreseeable future, that's what we're going to have to contend with. So anyhow, put as many good things in your favor as you can. Plenty of bait working in here. Work all your different size baits. Like I say, we're still in the new moon phase. We're going to be on the back side of that new moon here moving forward as you'll get to those transition days. So have all different profile sizes, the things that I've mentioned earlier already. All 4 different sizes of the down south have been good. The knocking tails and those 2 flavors have been good, in the greenback and the heavy metal. And then, of course, the Mirror Lure Little John's always a great go-to. Watermelon red in that. Kitchen red and gold glitter's been good. All those flavors been really good for us. Purple Demon, I think, was another one that we threw in a little bit more stained water in the Mirror Lure Little John and the XL. The Soft Dine XL have all been good. Double D's been another one that we've incorporated in this past week. So you got a lot of different variety of style baits that you can use. Load your box up, fix your box up however you so choose. There's lots of different choices that you can. If you can stick with that 16th ounce jig head, that really helps you work these waters and work these guts and just allow these fish to really eat for you. Be patient and don't get in too big of a hurry with it. Again, majors and minors are going to always be your key thing. You're going to hear me say that until you're sick of hearing it, but once you start incorporating it into your fishing day, you'll see the difference that it makes as far as your catching ability goes. So enjoy your time that you get to spend out on the water and have as much fun as you possibly can.